Hello and welcome to an exciting episode of the Odd Couple podcast. For the last few years and especially over the last few months, the biggest buzzword, apart from this pandemic, has been cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, DogeCoin, blockchain, etc. But what are they actually? To help us laymen make sense of these buzzwords and delve into the world of cryptocurrency and investing, we have Mr. Pareen Lathia. Pareen is the AVP-Marketing at WazirX, India's largest crypto exchange. He's been a trader, a writer in the crypto space, and has written for publications like Economic Times and Coincrunch. He invests with crypto startups. He has been an entrepreneur in the software and hospitality sectors earlier. Welcome to the Odd Couple podcast, Pareen.
Thank you for having me here.
Hey Pareen, so nice to have you finally, an expert on the topic. We've had so many listeners come in asking us what is Bitcoin. There's still a lot of people have no clue what it is. So I think I want to start off our whole talk today of what cryptocurrency really is and what is the evolution of cryptocurrency and why was it created in the first place? What was the need for it?
So, Bitcoin is, and generally crypto is pretty hard to understand because you have to understand markets, economics, technology, cryptography. There are a lot of lenses that you can use, to view just Bitcoin or crypto. Simplest way to understand Bitcoin is that it is a peer-to-peer value transfer, right? So today, what happens is if I want to send you some money through, let's say, my Google Pay, or Paytm, or bank account, there is a counterparty, right? There is a bank, right? So essentially, our money today is a ledger entry in Google's or ICICI Bank's database. That's all our money is today, right? What Bitcoin does is it takes this ledger and makes it public. So common people like you and me can hold this ledger in on our devices, and it then suddenly becomes decentralized, peer to peer. So there is no company called Bitcoin. There is no CEO of Bitcoin. It's just people like us. And the closest technology to this is torrents. If anyone has used torrents, we know that this is just peer to peer, and the file essentially is encrypted, so no one can really read it. So it's also secure, but it is peer to peer. So it's a revolution in itself.
Correct. But what was the need for us to have something like this? So because we had normal currency and the evolution of currency into things like PayPal and Paytm. So there is digital currency in that way. So the ease of banking, everything was there. So I understand. Okay, you have the middlemen, but other than that, is there any other reason?
One of the things that cryptocurrencies as an asset class bring on the table is complete transparency and decentralization. What this means is I can see exactly how big the supply of Bitcoin is. So, for example, Bitcoin, there will only be 21 million Bitcoins in existence ever. There will never be more than that. Now, today, when we look at USD or INR, right, these currencies are fiat currencies. What this means is essentially it's backed by nothing but government's trust, right? And they can go ahead and print as much money as needed, which is what we see happening today in a lot of
Right.
economies, right? All these stimulus packages we get are all, it's not that the government has enough money, right? It's just more money being injected. So this problem of inflation is being solved by something like Bitcoin, whose supply is severely limited.
So I could say that like Bitcoin is literally the gold of our real world.
So Bitcoin is 10x gold. See, fiat supply keeps increasing every year, right? And the numbers are there on RBI website, Federal Reserve website. You can go and check how much money is being printed every year, and it's massive, shocking numbers. Gold supply in last 100 years has been very stable. It just increases at 2% per year, which is pretty stable. So every time you see there is a recession, people tend to switch to gold because they understand that gold is
Correct.
much more scarce than our fiat. Now, what happens with Bitcoin is it imbibes the exact economics of gold, but in a much more deflationary way. So every 4 years, the supply of Bitcoin goes half, right? So out of 21 million, 18 million Bitcoins have already been mined. So they exist. Now, in next 120 years, we will only see the rest 3 million Bitcoins being produced. So that supply is super scarce. That's why we see these crazy bull runs, when it goes 10 times, 20 times. its price.
Yes, this is crypto's currency side, but there's also, I mean, a terminology like blockchain which is thrown around, right? So, how is it related to cryptocurrency? I understand it's a very layman question, but that's where we are at.
Everyone's learning, definitely, and there are times when even I had these questions, right? So I understand where you're coming from. Essentially, blockchain has been portrayed as this game changing technology, but it is just the way Bitcoin works, right? What we call it is distributed ledger technology. How I just explained how this ledger is distributed among millions of nodes. That's all there is in blockchain. The technicalities of how blockchain works is not that important. But for us to understand that blockchain essentially means that there is some data that has been encrypted and distributed across millions of servers, so to speak, right, across the world.
Right.
And when someone queries this particular database, right, there is a consensus that happens between all of these people. And if 51% people say of nodes or miners end up saying that this is a true transaction, the transaction goes through. And these transactions are sort of attached to each other in form of blocks. That's why the name blockchain. But to think of it, we should always think distributed ledger technology. That's what it is. Also, there is a myth that blockchain is great, but cryptocurrency is not so much. That's a problem because in a blockchain, if you don't have cryptocurrencies, there are no incentives, right? Why would
Correct.
a node holder or a miner hold this ledger if we are not paying them in some currency, which is not going to be fiat at any point in time? That's like a lot of people say blockchain is good, but cryptocurrencies are not great use cases. So the way to look at it is saying car is great, but I don't want the engine. The car is not going to work. So whenever people say blockchain, it's usually a farce. What they are saying is cryptocurrency.
Another thing, Pareen, like, see, for the first time, when I heard about crypto, I think it was around 2014, 2015 was when I heard it for the first time. Like, people were talking about it. But it was always synonymous with things which the dark world or the dark web was using. So from the beginning, for me, there was this fear attached to it that, it is like only used by smugglers and armed dealers and things like that. Until now, it's become such a big deal that everybody's talking about. Why did it get that type of
So initially, see, Bitcoin is such a revolutionary invention that we are still learning the things built inside of Bitcoin. Every year there are new things being discovered. Post initially, people thought it's a game for nerds. It's okay. We mine some money. It's worth a few cents, and they treated it like a game. Once it rose in value and people realized that this is a way that I can transfer money anywhere across the world without being traced, they started using it for all of these illicit purposes. In 2013-14, specifically, there was a site called the Silk Road, and there used to be everything, right from porn to drugs to arms and all of these things. They thought that Bitcoin is untraceable. And if I do this, instead of paying with US dollars or cash, it's better to do it this way because at the end it's just a Bitcoin wallet, right? And if you mine it, or let's say if you buy it without going through a large exchange, there is no way to know you bought Bitcoin. That is what they thought. But they forgot the fact that Bitcoin is actually ultimately traceable.
yeah, it's an open ledger.
Transactions exactly that have happened since 2009 are in this ledger. So if
Correct.
you trace a few of them and then connect the dots, it's very easy to find who was doing what. And all of them got caught. I think the Silk Road founder got caught eventually. There is a big controversy around him. But since then, people have realized that it's worse to do illegal activities in Bitcoin because now it has matured and people realize governments have all sorts of tracking software these days. So the number of illicit activities is actually decreasing now.
Yeah, I heard that there's a very, very small percentage of people who actually deal with it illicitly.
Right.
And if you compare it to our real world currency, even our real world currency is being used for arms transactions and
Exactly.
this and that. So any good thing will be misused by a small part of people. That's inevitable.
Just to add to your point, that SWIFT, which is the international standard of payments, released a report and said out of all money laundering happening, only 5% happens in Bitcoin. 95% is still happening in US dollars and pounds and all sorts of other currencies, right? So It's okay. And this is actually good that once we adopt Bitcoin, we can curb corruption in a big way because at the end, it is still a public ledger.
So, if that is the case, why are so many governments against crypto adopting it? Like China blows hot and cold. We have US and UK slowly adopting it. We have India reversing its stance recently and looking into it seriously, which is a great sign for all of us. But why is there this hesitancy to adopt it? And could you throw more light on it?
This happens with every technology. People did this with internet, with computers, telecom. India specifically has been a laggard in adopting most technologies. Right? Like I have newspaper clippings from 1995. Some ministers saying that we should ban computers, otherwise accountants will lose their job. Right? These things happen. So it is okay, but maybe we will be 3 4 years behind the world in adopting this. But once India adopts a technology, we become the number one. Right? That's
Correct.
software, telecom, UPI, everything. It's the best in the world. Now, that is why we are so bullish on India as a market. That, okay, it takes some time because there are complications with technology. We know scams happen even with UPI, right? So this opens up a whole new spectrum, and government has to think about investor protection, about all the loopholes that these technologies bring. Once those loopholes are filled in, they see a successful implementation, it would be business as usual. But there is a gestation period. Always technology comes first, regulation comes later.
I guess the regulation always follows when people start using it and it becomes like
Yes.
really popular with people,
Yeah.
and then slowly the whole, now if you look at it now, slowly Facebook, Twitter, and everything, they're trying to bring in regulation into that. So because it's become so popular as a medium that sometimes it can, it can overthrow governments also. So then, they start trying to bring in regulations into that.
Which is good always.
Yeah. So, but do you ever foresee that a cryptocurrency could be the a currency of a nation, or a nation could bring it out and run it as a currency form?
Problem with our generation, maybe anyone who is, let's say, born in last 60, 70 years, is that we've only seen one form of money. If you look at human history, human trade history, 5,000 years of documented monetary history of what kind of money we've used, it's never been constant. World reserve currency in last 500 years has changed 5 times. So we see US dollar as this almighty, thing that cannot ever fail. But that's just the problem with our generation. We always think that currency means payments. That's not true.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, what is money? Money is anything that the world owes me. I work today, I earn a little bit salary, and I don't want to use that up today. Right? So I store that value that I've created for the world at large in some object or some form. That object could be, an M.F. Hussain painting. That object could be gold. That object could be a vintage car. Why not? All of these things are money in some way. Just because I don't carry around a piece of gold and pay with it for my chai doesn't mean it's not money. Right? So on a large scale, on a wider level, when we look at money, cryptocurrency is already money. Right? It's $2 trillion worth of highly liquid market. Right? There is hundreds of billions of dollars worth of volume being done every day. So it's a large liquid market, which is essentially the definition of money. I may not pay with Bitcoin for my chai anytime soon. That's okay. But that doesn't make it any less a store of my value.
But I've heard that technology itself is so task consuming, and mining a Bitcoin, and then so imagine filling up these ledgers and things. So imagine we using it as a currency form. Probably this won't be the most cost efficient way of running a thing. But I'm sure there are other cryptocurrencies out there which I don't know anything about.
So there is a big debate kicked off by Elon Musk about energy consumption of Bitcoin. This is a question that's been answered, done, and dusted. Most of Bitcoin mining is on renewable resources right now, and in the next 5 years or so, it's going to be 100% renewable resources. Right? People are using solar mostly, and maybe even nuclear options to mine Bitcoin. That's the price that we have to pay to have a secure network that cannot be broken by anyone in the world and cannot be controlled by anyone in the world. Now, when we look at something like this, compare this to an industry which is gold. Gold mining requires a large equipment. It affects the earth, definitely. Also, you have to transport this gold across the world, right? So if you consider, let's say, banking as an entire industry and look at the energy consumption, not only for the servers that they have, but right up to the watchman sitting outside of ATM, you will realize that Bitcoin's energy consumption is nothing, right? It's peer-to-peer banking anyway. That's the
Correct.
simplest comparison. But even then, of course, energy consumption is no excuse. So once we have it move on renewable resources, it won't be such a big issue out there. And also, Bitcoin is not a medium of exchange as yet. It's not scalable. Every transaction takes like 1 hour to get processed. But that's a challenge that Bitcoin has to solve over a period of time.
Yeah, but I'm sure most people are quite smart and tech savvy nowadays that they will, figure out a way to do this with just the hardware itself improving over time to try and, mine these bitcoins. It's been amazing since their journey with hardware. So I'm sure they will figure out a way to make this happen. So on that note, let's take a break, guys.
You're listening to the Odd Couple Podcast. A Pandemia Inc. production.
Are you ready?
A friendly fireside chat with friends where no topic is beyond a healthy discussion, punctuated with a laugh or two. Check it out! Tune in every fortnight on your favorite podcast network.
So, welcome back. Today with us, we have Pareen Lathia, the AVP-Marketing of WazirX, India's largest crypto exchange. So, Pareen, other day I was listening to a very interesting chat on Twitter Spaces where you were a part of, and there was a very interesting question which I thought was asked, and I think is relevant to ask that question again because you gave a very interesting answer to it. Now, since we spoke about governments slowly adopting it and regulating it XYZ. What stops a government, like let's say any government, starting a coin, let's say like a Bharat coin, and then you create a hype around it, and then a lot of people actually buy it, becomes very inflationary and everything. And recently we had a case where there was Dubai coin, which was launched and people bought into it, and then the UAE government came and said, "Hey, listen,
Yeah,
we have nothing to do with it." Right? So there are a lot of these scam coins, if you want to call it. What do you think would be the possibility and the repercussions of such coins?
So, Bharat coin already exists. It's called rupee, right? What the
Yeah.
government or RBI can do is
Damn
digitize.
it, somebody beat us to it, Sid.
Yeah, the government has beaten all of us to it for a long time now.
Oh,
but
is it?
but the point is that all they can do is they can digitize it. Right? Most likely, when we say central bank launching a digital currency or a digital rupee, right? What that means is that it's still fiat because the supply is controlled by them, the monetary policy is controlled by the government, but it is a digitized form, which is a significant upgrade, no doubt about that. If they make it decentralized in some way, let's say give every state government a node or give some independent bodies a node, something that makes it accountable, that would be fantastic. If not, it doesn't matter too much because we are still going to use fiat. Fiat has its own applications. It's not like it's useless. Have been using it for hundreds of years now. But when we look at coins like Dubai coin, these are all scams. This is the reason everyone's pushing for positive regulation. That you should not be able to launch, sell, raise capital, scam people based on some kind of a marketing gimmick, right? This doesn't happen in any other industry because let's say today I want to launch a mutual fund, there is a process. And there are licenses that I have to take, there are audits, checks. So all of that is very welcome to put in place and say, okay, this is the right way to do it, and this will minimize investors' risk. And that's great. Dubai coin, of course, it sounds fake because if Dubai were to really launch a coin, that would be global news. It will never happen. But investors do get scammed. Greed still runs the industry, so can't do anything about it.
I remember this one, what is it, one coin, which was like a whole Ponzi scam with this
There
lady
are
called.
quite a few. Now there are coins and duplicates of coins because there are decentralized exchanges and permissionless platforms to list and all of that. So there are too many scams in the industry, no doubt about that.
But I think that's where a company like yours comes in, like WazirX. I mean, from the beginning, you guys have been fighting within India itself for regulation and education. Your company leads in educating a lot of people about cryptocurrency. And I think that's where you guys come in to kind of bridge the gap between the layman and
Definitely, we've been trying hard to educate as many people as possible, and usually we talk about fundamentals, not about which coin goes up, which coin goes down. We don't create FOMO and stuff, but still we see so many people falling for TikTok scams and all of that, and just buying DogeCoin. So there is a cycle of learning that everyone has to go through before they can get into it. We just try and accelerate that cycle for people in our community so that they can learn with right resources. There's too much fake information out there. When you go inside crypto community, you can never know what's true.
Absolutely, because there's so much of speculation and these false news, and there's I think, an overload of information right now, or let's say the wrong information. So, what's your take when you have mega influencers like your Elon Musk or Mark Cuban just tweeting and changing the whole landscape of the market? And it goes into a sudden crash or free fall, which it did a couple of weeks back. Shouldn't there be regulations on that front too?
See, Elon Musk has influenced Tesla's market. Today, if Rakesh Jhunjhunwala says, I'm selling this share, it crashes, right? So there is going to be influence always, no doubt about that. Only good thing that I see is that last bull run in 2017, I think we were like a $250 billion industry, market cap wise. There used to be smaller players who would be able to still influence. There was a guy called John McAfee who invented the McAfee virus, and he used to just play around with a lot of coins and stuff. Today, only person in the world who is able to influence is probably Elon Musk. When we are a $2 trillion industry, in next 5 years, when this industry becomes $20 trillion, Elon Musk will have no influence, right? So
correct.
that's where we are going, right? To move an entire market will get very difficult over a period of time. So short-term movements are okay, and still the market cycles keep doing their work. So on a long term, it doesn't affect too much. If you look at it from a monthly point of view, yes, maybe it's a 50% crash. Look at it from a yearly perspective, it's nothing. Bitcoin is 700% up even now since last year.
So that's a great segue into going into how do you think that people should start investing into crypto, especially in India?
So what I say is first remember that crypto is the riskiest asset out there. The risk is exponentially high compared to any other asset that you can hold today. And given that in mind, second thing is again coming to education. Get educated first. Before you do that, maybe go ahead and buy a little bit of Bitcoin, maybe even 2000 rupees. 2000 rupees is enough. Go and buy 2000 rupees worth of Bitcoin. This is, imagine you went for one movie. That's all. But now what will happen is you will start tracking the price, you will start tracking the market cycles, and you will start learning about it because now you have some skin in the game. Put in money only that you can afford to lose because it takes one market cycle to understand how this works. So if you are entering right now, you are entering right in the middle of a bull run, right? You have to see 3.5 more years of market, and there will be an extended bear market in that. So do not think that you can make life changing money this year. That's not possible. This year is for learning, learn for a few years, make educated bets so that you understand you don't lose your money. And once you get through that cycle, next cycle will be where you can make life changing money. This is a pattern that I've seen over and over again. Everyone who got into the market in 2017 mostly lost money or did not make too much money. Okay money. Because they did not know how to do this. Now, with the entire cycle over, this year, all of these people are super prepared to take advantage of it, and it's already been great. For the industry, it's been bull run since last year entirely. It's just been up. All the points have been up all the time. So people have already made life changing money or are on the path to make
Yeah.
life changing money, right? So but this doesn't happen this year. People get into Dogecoin thinking my money will get 10 times tomorrow. Even if it gets, you will lose it subsequently. Right? You should be able to consistently make money. That's a skill that you have to develop.
So when you say be consistent now in the stock market world, no, we have when we talk about investment, we have something called the systemic, the the
SIP.
SIP. Yeah. So do you think that we can think about cryptocurrency in the form like we can monthly put in a small chunk and then hopefully over 60 years, something happens?
Not 60 years, only in 5 years something crazy will happen. This is the hardest part of cryptocurrency. Everyone thinks about doing an SIP. Once upon a time, even I thought, okay, too much trading. I'm not good at this. Let me just do SIP. It never happens because we get greedy. See, in cryptocurrency, the problem is not that there is no. I mean, there is so much money to be made, no doubt about it. But the greed always kills it. So if you can start a Bitcoin SIP, not a crypto SIP, not even Ethereum, nothing. I wouldn't recommend any other coin. Bitcoin is the only one whose fundamentals are rock solid right now. So if you start a Bitcoin SIP today, do not look at the price at all and do it for next 5 years. You will have life changing money. But most people cannot do that. What will happen is it will be so volatile that it gives you this kind of a rush. And then you get sucked in the market. You get so sucked that people keep checking their portfolios every 1 hour. Oh, what's happened? What's happened? Yeah.
Again, platforms like yours have really made it so easy. Like, it's like trading like on the share market, where we've got an app which I just opened. So I saw Bitcoin when it was trading at 49,000 recently. Then when I look back, it was around, now it's around 27 to 29, and I thought, wow, it's dipped. What they say, when it dips, you buy. When it dips, you buy. But then I went back and looked at the 1 year chart, which is there. So you just go back and you scroll the 1 year chart, and I saw that it was way lower. like, and I was like, oh God, this is not the dip. The dip is going to come. So, I mean, in a certain sense, your platform has allowed us to make those type of better decisions based on knowledge that, okay, it's like a share market now. The information is there. Read it, understand it, and utilize it.
So Bitcoin, ideally, you should look at weekly or monthly charts. If you look at weekly or monthly charts, you will see how it went for the next last 7 years, 5 years at least. And when you look at that, you will see an entire cycle, how it went, and where we are in this cycle. So this is a pretty easy way. Bitcoin, I believe that Bitcoin is highly predictable. When you look at it, and there is enough. Every time I tell someone, Bitcoin is at $7,000, it's like too expensive, too expensive. Bitcoin is at $15,000, too expensive, too expensive. Now, if Bitcoin was at $50,000, everyone was like, "Now I want to buy
Yeah.
now." Now it's at $35,000. People are like, "Now I don't want to buy." So this is the greed part. If people could really invest with discipline and hold it for 5 years, even today, no one who has bought Bitcoin before February this year, everyone is in profit. Right? Imagine 10 years of history for an asset. In the last 3 months, anyone who has bought may be in a loss, but everyone else is in profit. So there's no worry, and it is deflationary. To study this, when the supply goes down, the price has to go up. This is plain math.
And like you said, they're not making any more of Bitcoin, so
They are, but the supply is reducing. Supply is reducing in a big way.
the other last thing which I want to ask you is, what would you suggest should be a person's portfolio? How much should he delve into crypto? I mean, this is your personal advice, and I'd like to make it very clear to most of our viewers: none of what we are talking about is any advice for you to take and to use in this. This is just something which you're just trying to bring more knowledge about cryptocurrency and bitcoins. And so, whatever we say here is our personal view, and none of it is for you to take home.
So I usually refrain from answering these questions. I like to quote some Wall Street fund managers like Paul Tudor Jones and biggest of people in the money world. They are not crypto people. They are sane investors. Right? I may be biased because I work in crypto industry. What they say is you should invest anywhere between 1% to 5% of your overall net worth. Say if you have X amount in real estate, X amount in stocks, X amount in FDs, X amount in cash, count all of that. And if you are a conservative investor, invest only 1% of that. And that too in Bitcoin. Okay, they were very specific. They did not say crypto. Whenever people say crypto, I just feel like they're saying blockchain all over. People say Bitcoin. If you notice, Elon Musk never says crypto, always says Bitcoin. Right? So notice these things. 1% in Bitcoin. If you are a young investor, maybe someone who wants to take a lot more risk, 5%. right? This is a very small percentage of your portfolio. Rest of it is still in fiat markets. But because this is supposed to grow exponentially, so this becomes 10 times, then your portfolio overall gets a big pump. In case you lose this money, still it's okay. It's just 1% of your portfolio that you're losing. It's not that big a deal. So
Correct.
it is a very calculated hedge that you are taking, right? Which is what most Wall Street fund managers are doing today.
So we spoke about what cryptocurrency is, what Bitcoin is, what are the strategies to invest, how we can use WazirX as a platform to easily invest into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. What I would love to hear from you is, what do you think is the future of crypto? How is it going to shape the world? Because we have certain countries with hyperinflation like your Venezuela and Zimbabwe long back.
So I think two fronts here. One, what you asked is whether it will anyway anytime become a payment mode or a reserve currency or something like that. Yes, there are theories about Bitcoin becoming the reserve currency. There's a book called the Bitcoin Standard, which says
Wow.
gold was the world reserve currency. Right now, it is not. And Bitcoin is digital gold. So it may end up becoming this because there is a game theory at play now. Right? Countries like El Salvador, Argentina, Brazil have already legalized Bitcoin as a tender in their countries, and they are offering free citizenship for crypto founders. Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of capital is going to flow in those countries in the next few years. So this will kick off a domino effect, maybe. That's one theory that exists in the market. Second thing is where we are going to tokenize the entire world. What is inevitable is that the entire world is going to be tokenized. Right? What I mean by that is something like Bitcoin becomes a store of value. Something like Ethereum becomes the next internet blockchain where all the applications are built on top of Ethereum. Right? So imagine today WhatsApp holds all our data, which is centralization of a kind. When Ethereum scales up, you could build a WhatsApp on Ethereum and it could be owned by no one. The data is completely encrypted on a public blockchain that everyone trusts. So this becomes a big use case, and all sorts of data will be on public blockchains because that is all people what people will trust. Right. So what we call them is DApps, distributed apps. A lot of people building that now because there is centralization everywhere. I don't want YouTube to control me. I don't want Spotify to control me. I don't want Facebook to control me. Right. As an artist also. Third thing is where all real world assets, physical assets, will be tokenized. So today we see a wave of NFT. Right? NFTs are, let's say, tomorrow when I sell my house to you, instead of going to an office doing some paperwork, what I'll do is I'll have a token NFT for my house on my app, and I will just send it to you in your wallet, and the house suddenly belongs to you.
So it's like an agreement, but a digital agreement.
It's a proof of ownership and a way to transfer it. That's all, right? That's what we do today, right? All our documents are proof that I own something. That's all I have.
Funnily, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but funnily, this word of NFT now is being used very commonly. Also, like just like how Bitcoin, like we've got these paintings which have come, which are NFT. So, do you see that as the future now? Everything being tokenized.
The digital art is just a very small example of NFTs, right? Digital art is the easiest to tokenize. That's why they are tokenizing it. Tokenizing a song or a photograph or a painting is easy. But tomorrow, let's say when I want to tokenize my house or tokenize my iPad or tokenize, let's say, my car, that is going to have some challenges. So we will see them in a few years from now. Those use cases will come up. But now it is significantly limited to some kind of a digital art. So this happens. An industry does something that's easy first, and then they'll go towards harder use cases as this market gets saturated. So it will happen for sure.
Yeah, but if it's anything like a trend, then it's starting now because like Twitter sold their first tweet. Or is it the basketball NBA sold out the first video, and they're all making it into tokens and selling it. So if this is a trend, this would be the best time to pick up these ones. And
I'm a little skeptical about selling tweet and stuff. It's just a screenshot. It's not even really scarce. So
yeah.
that's like buying Xerox copy of a magnificent painting. So yeah, let them see. There needs to be some liquidity in any market, and they bring it this way. And a lot of people have made money in crypto. They don't mind buying thousands of dollars worth of NFT because they are like, okay, anyway, I've made this money trading. So that's a current trend, which will solidify into something more concrete and with fundamental value.
Sweet. So thank you so much, Pareen, for joining us on the Odd Couple podcast. We had such an amazing conversation with you and really cleared up a lot of the foggy areas or the gray areas that I had about crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain and DogeCoin and everything around in and around it. I would sincerely urge everybody to go and do check out Pareen's social media handles. There's excellent conversation happening on that. And also, we'll leave links on WazirX where you can start trading in crypto that you're interested in. But do follow Pareen's advice that he's given. Be careful. Not more than 1 to 5% of your portfolio should go into it. But it's a long run and it's not a day trading game. Wait for 4-5 years and listen back to this podcast episode and you will thank us, hopefully. Thank you so much, Pareen.
Thank you guys for having me here. It was fun talking to you, and I mean all the questions were just like bang on. I think your audience is going to really thank you for this in a few years, no doubt about that. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for bringing the expert quotient on this, layman conversation which we generally have.
Thank you.
So until the next time, guys, signing off is Dr. Sheesh.
And this is Siddharthya.